Welcome to the 2019 Student Design Competition Information Webinar. Today we'll be discussing how the competition works and answer any questions you have. So if you do have questions during the webinar, please go ahead and type those into the Q&A box as we go, and we'll be sure to answer those at the end of the webinar. My name is Megan Barillo, and I'm the Communications Manager for CWEA. And I'd like to start the webinar off by introducing Jim Clark with Black and Veatch.
Thank you, Megan. And welcome, everyone. We're really happy that you all are participating today. I want to talk a little bit about WEFTEC for those of you that aren't familiar with WEFTEC. It's basically the largest event of its kind in North America and provides exceptional training and education in the water quality field for our members. The Water Environment Federation is a not-for-profit organization. We have 34,000 individual members and 75 affiliated member associations, of which California Water Environment Association is one. The CWEA has over 10,000 members who work for various agencies in the wastewater field, collection systems, engineering, public agencies, equipment and service suppliers, and just about anybody that is in the water quality field are members of CWEA or can be members of CWEA, and all of those different areas within our profession are included. Go ahead, Megan. Okay. The student design competition has been going on for a number of years now, and it's intended to allow college students to promote a real-world design experience and gives interest and skills that prove to be extremely valuable as you students enter the professional world. So the tasks that individuals or teams within WEF to demonstrate, show, to evaluate alternatives, develop a comprehensive design, and present a solution that meets the requirements of a problem statement. Go ahead, Megan. So there are two competitions at WEFTEC. One is a wastewater design competition, and that includes traditional wastewater collection and treatment design projects, might be hydraulic capacity, might be upgrades to existing treatment systems, could be biosolids handling, those types of things. And then there's a second competition, that's a water environment design competition, and that includes engineering topics such as stormwater management, green infrastructure, low impact development, might be some water reuse projects, wetlands, distributed treatment systems, and that type of thing. So each member association may select only one team per competition to participate. So California can send one in the wastewater design competition and one in the water environment design competition to this global conference, WEFTEC, which this year will be held in Chicago in 2019. Okay, go ahead, Megan. And to further discuss the CWEA competition, we'll have Ian, who's going to talk a bit about the CWEA competition and take over from here. Ian?
Hey, thanks, Jim, and thanks to all of you who joined in. So as Jim said, there are two sides to this competition, the wastewater side, the environmental, and last year was our first year from California to enter this competition, and we only had people enter on the wastewater side, but we'd be very interested if we get some people to enter on the water environment side as well this year. So it's our desire to send one team in each category to Chicago to compete, and we will provide some financial assistance to help you get there if you're chosen. So let's go to the next slide and talk about how we choose people. Okay, so it is a design competition, and these need to be design projects. So design and project, it's not just the design of a particular individual thing. It has to be a kind of project that could be implemented. So don't slice it too finely. Don't just design a manhole or a weir or something. It has to be a complete design. It's very common, although it's not required, for this to be students' capstone design project. That allows them to work. You can work in a team. There's no limit to the number of members in a team, but when we get to the presentations are limited to 4 people. So 4 or 5 is a good size for a team. Smaller can be successful. Our winners last year were a 2-person team. And yeah, you have to submit the design as a design with calcs, supporting documents, referencing the appropriate authorities. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, so what do you submit? So it starts with a written design report that presents the project, your solution to the project. It's supported by calculations. It's supported by drawings, often supported by costing as well, so that we have a complete report on a project. We will also have an oral part where you give a 20-minute presentation, usually with slides, followed by 10 minutes of questions. And the winners will be selected on a combination of the written report and the oral report. And the oral reports will be done in person at our competition day, which will be next year. The written reports will be submitted in advance so that our markers have a chance to look at them before they see your oral presentation. Let's go to the next slide. So, to be eligible to participate in our competition, you need to be a student member of WEF, which is a great deal. It costs you $20. It gets you into the CWEA annual conference free. It gets you into WEF Tech free, which is a great deal because it costs a few $100s to go to WEF Tech ordinarily. Like I said before, for the presentations, just to keep things manageable, maximum of 4 presenters. You can actually have a 5th person switching your slides if you wish. You can have more team members, but they won't be allowed to present. And yeah, we will pick 1 team from each side to go to WEF Tech. Next slide. Okay, so these are the dates. So by January 18th, we'd like to hear from you if you intend to participate. This gives us some numbers so we can start to plan the logistics of our competition day. And then by January 15th, we want you to submit a 1-page problem statement. That's kind of like an abstract that summarizes what you do. It's very important that we see that, because we don't want you to show up to our competition and then discover that, oh, we don't really think you meet our rules. That would be disappointing for everyone. So by looking at that item on the February 15th, if we think you need a little bit of steering to align your problem with the requirements of the competition, we can let you know at that point. So April 19th is the day to submit the written reports. So you will submit your written report, your calculations, any drawings you produced, all of that. And that will be done electronically. We will, once we have a list of who's in the competition, we'll send out the details of where and how you submit those. But they're basically PDFs submitted electronically to a Box site. And then on the 4th of May, which is a Saturday, we will have a competition in Oakland where you will get a chance to do your oral presentation. That competition will be held at the East Bay Municipal Utilities District headquarters, which is in Oakland, and we'll give you more details about that further on to the date. If you're our lucky winner or one of our 2 lucky winners, then by the week of June 12th, WEFTech will be hosting a webinar which tells you the details of what you need to do to join the WEFTech competition. And then by the end of the month, you need to submit your entry form and your abstract. And then by the 15th of August, and that date is a little bit tentative, it might change a little bit, but it'll be approximately the 15th of August to submit the design report for the competition. And then the 22nd of September is the actual WEFTech student design competition in Chicago. Next slide. So this is an example project that was done for a previous year. And a couple of things that are important here. This is a project that was developed in collaboration with an actual local utility. And if you're thinking about doing projects and you do have the opportunity to collaborate with a local utility, that's really helpful because it helps to align your project with real world needs. And those kind of projects tend to have a lot of success in the competition, including our last year's winner who worked very closely with a local agency to develop their project. This particular project was looking at improving and expanding an advanced wastewater treatment disinfection project. So they did an alternatives analysis for both filtration and disinfection. They did a preliminary design, and they also then did a brief analysis of other plant processes that would be affected. And note that this is all preliminary design and not producing a final design, but it's a complete and well-documented preliminary design. And that is a good level for the competition. It's what we tend to see a lot of in the WEFTech competition is people take it to that level. So they've thought everything through. They have a few drawings. They're not going into such an amount of detail that they can't work through it in the time that's allowed. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is a photograph of some of the finalists in our 2018 California competition. That one was held in Southern California at in Fountain Valley. So we're trying to alternate between north and south of the year. So this year we're up north. Next year we hope to be back south again. Next slide. So some FAQs. You don't have to be an environmental engineer to compete. You could be a civil or chemical engineering. You could even bring in someone from other disciplines if you wanted them to help you out. So we are going to sponsor 2 teams, 1 for each category. There's no standard problem. You can pick a problem that suits the agencies in your area, that suits what your advisors are familiar with, that fits your own interests. As long as it's a wastewater or environmental design, it's okay. And yeah, I think we said before, the maximum of 4 team members present to present. Okay, next slide. Okay, so at this point, we can take in any of the typed in questions, if anybody has any.
Okay, we haven't had any typed in yet, but I'll give the attendees some time to submit some questions.
Megan,
William,
back to the eligibility slide. I know we had a question last year where one student was unsure whether they were eligible or not to participate. Yes, that one.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you've graduated, like let's say you graduate in May or June, you are still available or eligible to participate if you were a registered undergraduate student within the last 12 months or so.
Okay, I do see we have one question, which is, to what extent do faculty mentors / advisors participate? Hey, William, do you want to answer that question since you were a mentor? Can you give a little bit of feedback on?
Yes, I can give feedback. It varies, I guess, in that the project my team had was to do a preliminary design for a pump station, but they had very limited hydraulic experience in their coursework up to that point. It was a new subject matter for them. So I had to, or they had to learn the hydraulics and the basics of going through a design. And I assisted to that extent, and I reviewed all their work. And that their report, I reviewed their report and gave them some insight on the report before they submitted it, things of that nature.
Good. So let me just add that as far as the actual presentation goes, the faculty mentors do not participate in the presentation, and they're obviously not expected to participate in preparing the report, but they certainly can give advice, correction, and help in preparation.
We also have another question. Is the goal more to create a preliminary design rather than actually getting into the process of designing?
So I guess my answer to that would be that I think to create a preliminary design, you have to get into the process of designing. So we would expect, you know, for example, for a wastewater project, we would expect to have some process calcs. We would expect to have some, you know, some drawings that illustrate what you're going to do. But we're not taking it to the detailed design. You don't have to do rebar calcs, or, you know, we're not looking for detailed electrical design. But it is a what we might call a 30% design. Jim, do you think that characterizes it?
Yeah, I think that's fair. And you know, the idea is that you've thought through the process, and you know what needs to be done, and you can logically present any challenges or any obstacles that you might experience. But the idea is to just make sure that you show your knowledge of the subject and that you've thought it through.
This is William. In our project, the project consisted of, we had an ongoing project at my agency where we were going to rehab a very old existing pump station, and also rehab one just upstream, as far as possibly have to build a new wet well. So their project consisted of, what if we just replaced the downstream pump station with a new station to eliminate that old station, plus eliminate the one upstream. And so their project had to basically do all the hydraulics of the gravity and the force main downstream of the pump station to properly size it, configure it, make sure it would fit on the property. And then they had to consider some hazardous groundwater conditions in building the new station. And then also they looked for cost, where our team did a rough, you know, a level 1 or 2 cost estimate based on the pumps they had picked, the rough sizing of the station. But I think at WEF, they actually looked more for life cycle cost in addition to just preliminary construction cost. So it was a preliminary basic design, not quite as much what we would hire a consultant to do, but get all the basics in.
Okay, do we have any more questions?
There's another one. Can problem statements be reviewed by CWEA before the February 15th deadline to make sure that they are appropriate?
Absolutely. Send it in, and we'll be more than happy to look at it.
Great. And what are the evaluation criteria at the member association level?
The short answer is that they're exactly the same as for WEFTAC. We're trying to make it as, for the longer answer, I think I'm going to turn that over to Jim, because I think you are the best person to explain how these are evaluated.
Yeah, happy to. Probably the best way to determine that is to look at WEF.org, WEF.org, and look at the design competition link. And in there you will see the requirements that WEF uses. And it's pretty much spelled out. It gives you what the judges are looking for and the points that they're looking for the various categories. And at California, we do the same thing. We just follow that because we want to be consistent. We want to give our teams the best chance of winning. We don't want to change the criteria so that you have to worry about a different set of criteria at the national competition. So hopefully that answers the question. Go to WEF.org and look at the design competition, and that gives you the categories and what's graded.
I have that, Jim. I can go over it real quick. There's two sides. You have the report side, in which is broken down into technical and report presentation. On the technical sides, it's introduction, statement of the problem, background information presented. Is a continuous logical sequence of steps to the solution. Was a conclusion drawn based on the steps outlined in the report? Was the design solution feasible and appropriate to address the problem? Creativity and innovation is considered in it. Did the report demonstrate their knowledge of the subject matter? Was it an economical and feasible analysis done and presented in the report? And was there a credit given to the sources in the report? And then in the presentation, were visual aids used, graphs and supporting information clear, where they present it clearly? Use correct grammar, spelling, technical writing method, formatting. So all that goes into the written report, and that is basically half the competition. And then on the visual side, it's broken down to content. Was the presentation sufficient in depth concerning the technical information? Was the technical information relevant to the design? Did the team members display an adequate knowledge of the subject matter during the presentation? Was the design solution original? And also, and then organization, how did they organize the presentation? Did they present the sufficient background information? Were essential facts developed and presented in a logical fashion? Was the recommendation based on the facts and data presented in the report? And then they get into the delivery and effectiveness of the delivery. Were they clear and legible and effective? How did the students vocally deliver? They don't like to see them just reading the information off the slides. Did they know the subject matter and use the presentation as kind of an introduction, but verbally get more into the detail? They judge eye contact also with the judges. And then there is in the presentation the 10-minute question and answer. Were they able to answer the judge's questions technically correctly? And did they present adding information in answering the questions beyond just the presentation? And so the presentation is the second half of the overall scoring of the project. That's all I got.
Thanks, William. It looks like that might be all the questions.
Megan, I think it might be good to just have Windsor say a few words about his experience, since he was one of the California winners last year and got to enjoy WEFTEC.
Great, Windsor.
Yeah, do you guys just want me to share anything, or is there like a specific area you guys want me to cover?
Windsor, I think you just tell them, you know, a little bit about your experience and what you went through and how you put it together and how much time you put into it and what kind of a good time you had at WEFTEC.
Okay. Well, starting with the good part, WEFTEC was an incredible experience, and we're really fortunate to have been able to participate and be sponsored by CWEA to be able to go out. You're able to learn a lot just about the industry, about more in areas that you want to learn more about. They have a lot of technical sessions, and then being able to compete and see how students are from other universities was a really neat experience as well. As for the project, we put in a lot of time, and you'll notice that everyone there has put in more time than just what it took to submit their presentation to their schools, because usually this is a capstone project. We worked on it all the way until October when we went to WEFTEC. We turned in our project in May for UCI, and we kept on working through the summer just to try to further refine it and really give the best products that we could. And it was rewarding. We were able to learn a lot, and I feel that the project has really helped to jumpstart our careers and get us more familiar with what it's like to be in the professional industry. But overall, I'm really, really glad that we went, and I strongly recommend this to anyone that's willing to participate and put in the time.
This is William. In Windsor's case, if it was their senior project, they were University of California at Irvine. They own a quarter system. So they basically did their project for the school over the period of January through June. So they actually had to produce their report and their presentation for CWEA before their stuff was due for their grade at Irvine. And so they actually could take the input from the presentation and the report in the CWEA competition back to improve their report and presentation for school, because they're slightly different a little bit. But WEF timing is such that, at least with our competition, you can take the input from our judges' review and comments and incorporate or correct or improve the report and presentation for the competition at WEF, should you be the CWEA winner. So you have a chance to revise and learn along the way from each step to improve to get all the way to WEF, or once you get there, to compete on even a higher stage than the local competition with CWEA. So you get an opportunity to tweak as you proceed through the levels of competition.
Thank you, William. Thank you, Windsor.
Okay, thank you all. If there's no more questions, I guess we can sign off.
Great.
I just have one last comment because of the slide on the schedule. With WEF, the reports are due basically a month in advance. The presentation, PowerPoint presentation, is actually due, I believe, a week before the actual competition. So the report is due a couple, 2 or 3 weeks in advance, or here it looks like 5 or 6 weeks in advance. But the PowerPoint presentation is due 1 week in advance of the actual competition.
Okay.
So it's due September 15th.
Right.
Ian, there was another question that came in. Is last year's team's report deliverable published to be used as reference in soliciting university teams?
Did we post that? I don't remember. Megan, do you know?
No, we didn't post it live.
We can look at putting some sample reports up, I guess. That would be. Yeah. But obviously, we would not want to see a repeat of last year's winning report.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I believe is going to be posting their reports online. They haven't got them up yet, but I believe they plan to.
Okay, going once, going twice. Thank you all for participating. If you've got questions, if you got more questions, if you think of some later, please send an email in, and we'll be more than happy to answer them. And we look forward to hearing from you all. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.